Funny story too is chair flying intermission. I coach a lot of different teams. I was coaching lacrosse a couple years ago at this stage, and we were getting ready for a big game. And I this idea just hit me, like, I got to talk to these boys, these 12-year-old boys about chair flying intermission. So I was like, listen, every one of you tonight, I know it's a big game tomorrow. I want you to go home. I want you to chair fly intermission. And I shared with them the story, and I'm turning the orange and I'm spinning this wheel. And I said, every one of you needs to go home tonight and you need to chair fly intermission. You need to figure out, okay, put yourself in a quiet room, put a set of headphones on if you want to. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to see yourself on the field tomorrow. I want you to see the play coming at you. I want you to see the ball moving from this side of the field to that side of the field. Your guy's sliding this way. What are you going to do then? Yeah. What if this happens? What if that happens? Type of thing. And one of the players on my team, he shared that with his little brother. Who was, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And about a week later, I got the coach, whose son shared it with his other son. His wife was like, I got a bone to pick with you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, so Liam failed his math quiz. And he said it's because he was chair flying his mission.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right, that is me. I'm Jimmy, and I am here with another Why Am I Talking, and I couldn't be more excited for this one. With me today, I have Andrew Lawler from Westside Hammer Electric. If you live in the Valley, you know him. He is the man, and this is going to be an incredible episode. So, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on here.
You've built me up to more than I probably am. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, I'm really looking forward to this one. You and I, we've gotten to know each other, over the past couple of years. And besides being a great person, like you do so much in the community. So that's what this show's about. So let's dive into it.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So you and I go back, our children were playing soccer. And that's my first introduction. We moved to the Valley and May's in soccer and you're there and you're coaching. All right, cool. And then I go to a chamber event and there you are. You're at the chamber event talking to everybody. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I see you pop up with the executive forum giving a keynote speech. And I'm like, all right, I got to get this guy on the podcast. So how do you have time for all of this? Like, how do you do all of the things that you do?
That's something that my wife asks me all the time. I think it's all about just kind of putting your priorities in order.
Yeah.
Same is true for life. The things that are important to you, you're going to find time. You're going to build them into your schedule that way. But on the business side, a lot of it's about balance. So being able to find the right time to focus on the business, the right time to focus on the family, the right time to focus on the community and those types of things. I think it's been part of, who I've been as a person through my entire life. Getting involved, trying to make something better than you found it is kind of part of who I am as a person. A lesson learned from the early days at the Naval Academy and the Marine Corps. For being honest about that.
Well, let's go back. I mean, let's start. I'm going to try to keep your story linear, but if you know my brain, it is all over the place. So let's start.
Go wherever you want.
Well, Andrew Lawler, before the Marine Corps, before the Naval Academy, who was he? And then let's go from there.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very traditional household, mom, dad, older brother, 2 younger sisters, involved in a ton of sports, right in just outside Northeast Philadelphia. So going through high school, sports was an important developmental thing for me as well. Kind of created a lot of leadership opportunities for me. I think one of the themes that hopefully comes out of this discussion today is leadership. It's something that I'm passionate about, truly. It's something that I've had the great fortune of being in a number of positions to learn a lot from a lot of other people. One of the earliest lessons I learned was about just kind of constantly being observant. So I try to teach this to my kids too, and to the kids on the sports teams that I coach, just observing. And no matter what situation you're in, you'll always find good leadership things and some bad leadership things. And so if you have a good leadership bag and a bad leadership bag, and you kind of tuck some of those ideas away, you can apply them later on in life, where you can maybe stop yourself if you see yourself in a situation going, I've seen this before through a different lens, and I need to correct what's going on. But growing up, I had a ton of opportunities to learn in leadership roles, both in sports teams. Academically, I did well as too. And so that kind of culminated coming through my high school years in an appointment to the Naval Academy. And that kind of set my course for really where I am now. A lot of the military side of things is very influential in my style, if you want to call it that right now as well. And it's positioned me to do the things that I've been very fortunate to do.
Yeah. And that's something I didn't appreciate till, later in my career. But when I went to business school, I was surrounded by a lot of people straight from the military. And the business acumen that comes out of that is unreal. Like they come head and shoulders above everyone else. So, I mean, how have you found that to influence your business life?
I'm going to take that right back to leadership, because they're certainly going through any form of military training. They're not talking about it as business acumen, right? But I think one of the most important parts about business is one of the most important parts about life. It's about being able to connect with people, right? And so that is what leadership training in the military, specific in my case, the Marine Corps, is all about. It's about being able to connect with people. So people have asked me, what's leadership? And to me, leadership is,
I was going to ask you
about,
that.
Right. To me, it's about two things. It's about taking care of people and accomplishing the mission. And I had the opportunity talking at our children's grade school not too long ago to say that very thing, talking about taking care of people. So it doesn't surprise me that the military folks that you ran into in business school were able to kind of understand what you describe as business acumen, because business is about taking care of people. It's about connecting with people and accomplishing a mission at the same time. So I think folks coming out of the military are very mission-driven people in general. That it's just hammered into you when you're in the military. And so this concept of being a part of something bigger than yourself, of having a mission, setting a vision, creating objectives, going to achieve those types of things, checking in from time to time, but you do that with and through other people, not just by yourself.
I didn't expect to make this an executive coaching session, but thank you very much. So you get to the Naval Academy. I mean, talk to me about your experiences there.
Yeah, I mean, Naval Academy was not something that I kind of grew up even knowing a little bit about.
Yeah, not a military family?
No, my father served in the Army for a short stint. He graduated from Lafayette with an ROTC background. And my grandfather served in the Navy for a little bit of time, but other than that, no. I mean, I never knew the military side of life. Yeah, it was never a part of kind of me growing up. But again, going back to some of those leadership opportunities and some encouragement from the right people along the way, and somewhere along the line, somebody's like, you should really check out one of the service academies. And so I had the opportunity to go down, visit the Naval Academy. It was the first and only service academy that I went and visited, and I just kind of fell in love with the whole thing. I mean, the beauty, if anybody's ever been there, the beauty of the yard, as they call it, I became enamored with that. We grew up in the Top Gun generation, right? So it's like, wait a minute, you mean I can go to school, I can get a great education in science technology field, which is kind of what I was passionate about, and I have the opportunity to potentially fly off an aircraft carrier?
Right.
Like, dude, sign me up. Right? This sounds awesome. So I did pursue that as kind of a top choice, and I was fortunate enough to get in there. And as I mentioned earlier, that really began the formative years of my life, right? You get away from mom and dad, you get away from hometown, you're kind of on your own, you're in this big melting pot with at the Naval Academy, literally 1,000 other students from literally across the country and international, and you have the opportunity to kind of learn and grow together, learn your own style, that good leadership bag, like all those things kind of culminated together. And through 4 years there, it was just an incredible journey. Like the first year sucks. Let's like, I'm not going to mince any words there. It's very difficult to kind of come into a world where most of the people come into the Naval Academy, they were top of their class. They were captains of their sports teams. And you get there, and now you're surrounded by everybody that was top of their class.
The best of the
captains
best,
their sports
right?
teams.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, like now I got to, sink or swim in this environment too. And it's not about necessarily proving yourself. But I think being in that type of environment, it kind of elevates everybody to a different level. And then having some of the more formal, leadership classes and those types of things through 4 years there, and then being put into opportunities to apply those lessons that you learned as well. I couldn't say enough nice things about it. And so for like first year, people were like, you have a fairly decent dropout rate after the first year.
Yeah.
I mean, we started with about 1,200 kids in the class, and we graduated about 850 or so 4 years later. And a big chunk of those leave after the first summer,
right?
Because this just isn't for me, right? So
it's funny. So we got lunch a couple of weeks ago, and you were talking about the Naval Academy, and I could see in your eyes just like the love and the passion. So hearing you talk about it here, I see that again, and it must have really been the formative experience you're describing.
It totally was. I mean, some people get through things and they're like, "Man, I'll never do that again."
Right.
I'm not one of those guys. I would go back and do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
an absolute heartbeat. I mean, I'd do some things a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I would go do it all again.
So all right, you graduate, and then what's next for you?
So through my time in the Naval Academy, I mentioned the Top Gun thing, and I went in there thinking I'm going to be Tom Cruise. I'm going to fly off back of aircraft carriers, hair on fire, flying a jet, and I just absolutely fell in love with the Marine Corps.
Wow!
Through the experiences that I had there, the staff NCOs, which apologize for using jargon, but non-commissioned officers that are part of the leadership team. To help the midshipmen of the Naval Academy kind of grow and develop and understand what the Fleet Marine Force looks like and is all about, and what you're going to have to do as a young leader there. The Marines that I interacted with there, the officers and the staff NCOs, they were just kind of a cut above the rest. The old Marine Corps slogans of the few, the proud, and I just fell in love with the Marine Corps and their ethos and the warfighting spirit, and I had to be a part of that.
Wow!
So after the Naval Academy, I was fortunate enough to get a Marine Corps slot coming out of service assignment night, and so I was fortunate enough to kind of actually combine the best of both worlds, where I got a Marine Corps pilot spot.
Oh wow!
So,
yeah, that's very cool. So you got to then do the flying of the jets that you loved doing.
So that's another interesting part of life's journey, right? So I went in there thinking I'm going to be Maverick,
right?
And then I left there thinking I'm going to be Maverick, and I learned. I did a lot of learning about myself through that time as well. And so one of the things I realized is that I think I'm better suited for a crew, a team, being a part of something bigger than yourself, kind of literally combining multiple people to achieve a mission. And so while there were opportunities there to pursue that flying a jet, most of that is by yourself, or maybe with one other person. And so I actually intentionally chose a course to go down the crew path. So that was for coming out of aviation training for the Marine Corps. You kind of have three things that you can pick. You can, after you complete primary flight training, you can try to select jets if you have high enough grades to do that. You can select, we call it props, propeller-driven airplane, or helicopters. And so both props and helicopters are kind of crew-served teams that are there. And jets is, you're the man, you're the guy or woman going out and doing that. And so my top choices were props, then helicopters.
Wow.
And jets became my last choice.
That's funny.
Coming out of there. So I was fortunate to get props. And for me, that meant flying a C-130, which is a 4-engine cargo transport airplane.
Wow.
A big lumbering beast in the sky, but we used it for all kinds of different missions. It was a lot of fun.
What was it? I was going to ask, what is it like to fly something like that?
It's the perspective that you gain on life. When you slip the surly bonds of Earth, right? Like it's nothing that you could ever replicate.
Do you fly still?
I don't, unfortunately. I continue to talk about getting back into it, but all the other things that you mentioned, and all the priorities that I mentioned, that's one of those things that kind of unfortunately had to fall out. But I do still think that I'll get back into it someday. I struggle sometimes finding 5 hours to go golf, and so I find 5 hours to go fly instead of that. So,
if you had to pick Top Gun, Maverick, what's your choice
Top
here?
Gun all the way.
Okay. People try to say Top Gun Maverick is better, but I mean, Top Gun, it's the one that inspired it, right? It's the end all be all there.
I mean, you're an 8-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, watching that
right?
Like, there's just there's no comparison in my mind.
Absolutely. So then you're in the military. I mean, let's talk about the military a little bit, and then we can go to corporate America.
Sure.
So your time in the military, what lessons did you take away from it?
Yeah, I I mentioned a lot of the lessons through the Naval Academy time, and those things just were kind of put on steroids when you actually hit what's called the Fleet Marine Force, when you're actually out there doing what you were trained to do.
Yeah.
And so I actually had the privilege, you mentioned it earlier, the executive forum, they had asked me to give a presentation, and I said, on what? And whatever you want, type of thing. And so I talked a little bit about what we're doing in business and Westside Hammer and our clients and those types of things. But I think the thing that I just would love to share with you is kind of some of these lessons that I learned in the Marine Corps. So I put together a whole slideshow, top 10 lessons, really cool pictures and those types of things as well. But there's so many things that I wouldn't even be able to begin to kind of list them all out here today. But I think tying this to the business community and some of the focus of this podcast, I think the number one thing that I learned in the Marine Corps was this concept of commander's intent. And so I think this is a thing that I've talked a lot about to a lot of different business leaders around the Valley and even around the country in my previous roles in corporate America. But this idea of commander's intent, and it's all about allowing leaders at all the appropriate levels to make decisions, right? Like not all the decisions need to come from the top.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's kind of a recipe for failure in many ways. Or at a minimum in the business world, it's a recipe for stagnation, right? You're not going to have velocity in your business. You're not going to be able to achieve the growth that you want to achieve if all the decisions have to come through kind of one head. So commander's intent is all about conveying the desired end state. Where are we trying to get to?
Yeah.
Not how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you leave some of that to be colored in, to be filled in, by all the folks on your team, amazing things can happen with that. So it's about pushing decision-making to appropriate levels within your command, if you will, and kind of checking up on it. It's not, abdicating any responsibility or any of those things. So you're always checking up and you're doing things that leaders need to do, but it's having this higher intention of, this is where we're trying to get to. I need your help to help get us there.
Yeah.
And you make all the appropriate decisions to get us there as well. I got your back.
Yeah.
If you need to talk anything over, let's talk about it.
If I've learned anything in my conversations with you, is that your ability to define things and use words is way above mine. Like you just take these concepts where I'm like, oh, I'll empower leaders, and you not only define it, but you have strict definitions of kind of what that entails. And I think that, is a better form of communication. So as you're working with people in Westside Hammer, I would imagine this comes in there, right?
I think we'd have to ask those folks whether or not it comes in there. I try to be empathetic. I mean, empathy is one of those words that has really resonated in my mind, and kind of it's one of those things that I continually come back to. So it's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Right?
Yeah.
And so I do that not just from how do they feel, but like how would they hear? What are the words that are going to connect in their mind in this circumstance for what they're going through in life right now, for what we're going through as a team? Like, what are the appropriate words to use? But it's interesting. One of those other lessons I learned, and I talked to the executive forum about this too, and I'm going to tie this to the sports world as well, is chair flying your mission. So that's another big lesson that I learned through my time in the Marine Corps, specific to aviation community. What do I mean by chair flying your mission?
Right.
So it's essentially a way of envisioning what's going to happen before it happens. Right. So it's doing a little mindfulness exercises, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you how I learned this in a very real way, and then I'll tell you how it applies to the world that I kind of operate in right now. So chair flying your mission, when I was a young pilot in training, there was all kinds of buttons and knobs and wheels and things you had to move this and do that, and right. And so
they all do something, because I look at that and I'm like, what could that possibly be?
Right. You completely overwhelming when you look at it like that. Right.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting until you're in the moment and then trying to figure it out, the instructors would say, all right, you got a test flight coming up tomorrow. I want you to go home. I want you to pull out your dining room table chair. I want you to set it in the middle of your living room. And I want you to grab an orange and, a wheel of some sort and this knob over here. And I want you to just close your eyes, and I want you to fly the flight before it even happens.
Wow.
So you're literally sitting in a chair like this, and you're holding, it's tactile. You're holding on to things, and you're okay. And so I'm going to take off, and I'm going to have to set the trim this way, and I'm pull back, and I'm going to level off, and I'm going to set the trim back this way. So you're flying the mission before the mission ever even happens.
Right.
So long story longer, right? When you're trying to connect with people and you're trying to use the right words, I try as best I can to chair fly that mission. Sometimes that might only be a minute before I start opening my mouth. Right. And you can't do this all the time, but I mean, if you have a presentation to give the next day, go through some of the questions, what's going on, and how's this person going to feel, and what's going on in their life, and all this, and how do I connect with them in this way and that way. Funny story too is chair flying your mission. I coach a lot of different teams. I was coaching lacrosse a couple years ago at this stage, and we were getting ready for a big game, and I this idea just hit me, like, I got to talk to these boys, these 12-year-old boys, about chair flying your mission. So I was like, listen, every one of you tonight, I know it's a big game tomorrow. I want you to go home. I want you to chair fly your mission. And I shared with them the story, and I'm turning the orange and I'm spinning this wheel. And I said, every one of you needs to go home tonight and you need to chair fly your mission. You need to figure out, okay, put yourself in a quiet room, put a set of headphones on if you want to. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to see yourself on the field tomorrow. I want you to see the play coming at you. I want you to see the ball moving from this side of the field to that side of the field. Your guy's sliding this way. What are you going to do then? What if this happens? What if that happens? Type of thing. And one of the players on my team, he shared that with his little brother. It was, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And about a week later, I got the coach, whose son shared it with his other son. His wife was like, I got a bone to pick with you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, so Liam failed his math quiz. And he said it's because he was chair flying his mission. So I had to kind of correct Liam that school needs to come before chair flying your lacrosse mission.
That's really good. But you know what that makes me think of? I don't know if you've seen the fallout from the Super Bowl. We go into overtime, and it's a coin flip, and the touchdown or the overtime rules have changed so that even if you score a touchdown, the other team gets a chance to get the ball.
Right.
And the fallout is that the Chiefs have been preparing for this moment over and over and over, and they're sitting in meetings, and it's boring, and they get it. But when it comes to the coin flip, San Francisco never rehearsed this, and they don't know the rules. So they get the ball, they go down, they get a field goal. But the fallout is like, you see them, they go, they get a chance. Like, they weren't prepared for this. They didn't chair fly the mission, I guess.
That's one way of looking at it. And listen, I mean, neither you or I were there, and we have no idea what the reality of the situation were. Shanahan's just a brilliant coach. Right?
Yes.
And if some of the things that I've read says that they did talk about that, they did plan it, they did think about it. He has reasons for doing what they did, and it didn't work out for him.
No, it didn't.
And I think, will he do the same thing next time? He might.
Right.
He might do the same exact thing. He might think, like, I got these guys on the ropes. We're going to come at them. We're going to punch them in the mouth, and we're going to go down, and we're going to win this game. Right? I mean, there's always going to be armchair quarterbacks. You're going to,
that's my job. I'm an armchair all the way.
No, honestly, I thought the bigger issue coming out of that game was Travis Kelce getting into Reed's face.
Oh, don't even get me started. I know.
From a leadership standpoint.
No, that's a great point.
They actually addressed that on their podcast though too.
Oh, did they?
And I thought Big Brother Jason did a really nice job, kind of setting the stage for that. Whether it was rehearsed or not, I have no idea. But I think the true leadership came through in their podcast. So if anybody is still on the fence about that, I think it's much ado about nothing in the grand scheme of things. And I think they gave a great explanation on their podcast for kind of the heat of that moment and what happened. And so
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. All right. So you're not from the Lehigh Valley.
Nope.
Sounds like you exit the military, the Marine Corps, and then you find your way here?
That's correct. And so I worked through a junior military officer recruiting agency when I was getting out of the Marine Corps. One of the most difficult decisions that my wife Erin and I had to make was getting out of the Marine Corps. I mean, we loved everything about what we were doing.
Yeah.
We loved the support structure, the community, everything about it. But at the time, they call it the op tempo, the operational tempo, the amount of times you're deploying and being away from family and doing those types of things. The op tempo was high. And so at that time, my oldest daughter had turned 3 years old and I'd missed half her life.
Yeah.
So just daddy's gone.
Yeah.
And our second daughter was born and we were at a decision point. I had already fulfilled my required obligation about a year prior to that. And Erin and I made the hard choice that family came first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that hard of a choice in the grand scheme of things, but when you love what you're doing,
And yeah, you're going to completely change what you've been doing.
right?
Yeah.
And you've worked so hard for that, and you actually
Mhm.
feel like you're doing it right, and
Right.
you're being effective in what you're doing as well. To walk away from that is a difficult thing to do.
Mhm.
But we made that decision. I worked with this recruiting agency. It was important to us to be able to kind of come back home. Aaron and I were high school sweethearts from just outside Northeast Philly, and so I had the opportunity to look at the list the night before, and Lutron Electronics was on that list of people that were in Raleigh, North Carolina, recruiting junior military officers.
Wow.
To come join their company. And so fast forward, I was able to join Lutron. We moved back home, and then we settled into the Lehigh Valley there. I mean, the valley's not new to us though either. So my mom and dad both went to Bethlehem Catholic High School, and so I still have lots of family in and around this area.
Yeah.
So we were definitely. It wasn't completely unfamiliar, even though yes, we are transplants into the Lehigh Valley.
And then let's get to where you are now, right? Westside Hammer Electric. It is a 1935, I think it started.
That's right.
Family run and owned up until essentially this point. How do you
even through this point?
Right. Yeah.
Point, right?
But you're the first one who's not a Cunningham to kind of manage it. So
that's correct.
How?
Yeah, my career has been one. I tell people my career has been one of shrinking geography, Jimmy. So Marine Corps, I operated globally. Lutron, I operated nationally. I was on a plane a lot of the time, crisscrossing this country and visiting different cities. The entrepreneurial bug kind of got into me, which is something that Lutron does tremendously well. They breed entrepreneurs, they breed innovation, that type of thing.
Yeah,
a great culture as it relates to that. And so that entrepreneurial bug kind of got into me through a lot of the network that I had built. I wanted to kind of go out and try my own thing. So I joined a very large construction firm from Youngstown, Ohio, focused on the Marcellus Shale. So they were civil, mechanical, and electrical construction in Northeast Pennsylvania. It was really just electrical that we were focused on. So kind of started our own division backed by the big mothership out in Youngstown, but we were doing our own thing out here. So that was regional.
Yeah.
And then Luke Cunningham, close to 8 years ago at this stage, we had kept in touch through my time at Lutron. We had met each other and known each other. And he kind of called me up one day, and he was looking for a succession plan and how to kind of keep their thing going.
Yeah.
We put our heads together, and kind of the rest is history, as they say. But,
right.
But we worked on it. We worked on it for a long while, and I started out, joined the company, and you got to earn some things. You got to learn 85 plus years of history and what's going on there, and clients that you have, and impact on the valley, and the ways we make money, and things to stay away from, and good jobs, bad jobs, all those types of things. Mostly the people though too.
Yeah.
So I spent first 3 years or so in a kind of project focused role, learning a lot from Luke, and transitioned some of those relationships on the business development side of things. And then about 4 years ago or so, I took over as president, and Luke stepped into the CEO role.
Yeah, that's great. Yep. And I guess tell everyone, what does Westside do? Like, where do we go to hire Westside and bring them on board? Yeah,
so Westside Hammer, we are a full service electrical contracting firm. I like to think that we focus on the energy market as a whole, but everything from we do everything from very, very small to very, very large. So we have a robust service division that helps individual homeowners literally change light bulbs. If they need help changing light bulbs, we'll help them change light bulbs.
Trish would tell you I need help changing light bulbs, so we might be talking later.
Yeah, you don't hold the light bulb and spin the house. No, I mean, even recently with the storms that we had this past week, a lot of homeowners with tree limbs on wires and issues with the service coming into their homes, and we send people out there to help with that type of thing as well. So that's kind of the service-based or residential side of our business, and we have a number of crews out there every day doing that. And then we go everything from small scale commercial, medium, large scale commercial. We focus a lot on healthcare in the industrial environment as well, institutional markets, so colleges, universities, schools, those types of things. Anything that clients need on the electrical side, whether that be traditional power and lighting type of assistance, or more low voltage side of things, whether that be telecommunications, data systems, fire alarm systems, in healthcare environments, there's nurse call and security systems
Right.
and those types of things as well. So we do all of that.
So if it's electric, you guys are doing it basically.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, how have you liked it? How do you enjoy West Side? How has that been?
I tell you, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely awesome. I mentioned the shrinking geography. I love everything about being local. And when I say local, I don't just mean, just the Lehigh Valley. I mean, our footprint, we probably extend, if you draw a 60, 80 mile circle radius around Allentown, up into the Wilkes-Barre area, out in the Harrisburg area, down into the northern portions of Philadelphia, even out into New Jersey area. Like that's kind of the geography that we cover by and large. But we'll go anywhere a client would want us to go. Right. So not unlike everybody else's businesses, we're client focused. Yeah. So we try to respond to the needs of those clients. And it's been a tremendous learning experience for me. It's been an exciting ride as well. It was interesting. I mean, 4 months after taking over as president, COVID hit. So that was that was fun, to try to lead.
And I'm in charge now. Yeah.
Right. To try to lead through that. I mean, we had, the numbers aren't exact, but we had roughly 120 electricians on project sites on St. Patrick's Day of 2020. Wow. And about half a week later, we had 9 out there. Right. Wow. So, I mean, like literally overnight, we all know that the world changed. But that was the impact on our business side. Right. Went from over 120 people working in the field, actually performing project work, to less than 10. Yeah. And then we slowly built back up after that. And it's been a good ride after that. You learn a lot about yourself and the team. And, so we were able to pull a lot of really good stuff together. Construction came back with a vengeance when Governor Wolf at the time opened kind of the construction markets back up in May of that year, and it's been on a tear since then. So we feel very, very fortunate to have had those opportunities. In the moment, it was like, man,
right? Yeah,
how are we going to navigate this?
This is tough because I know we're bumping up on time, and I have like a million more questions to ask you. But I don't know if everyone's aware, but there was a Lehigh Valley Business article about you recently, which if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And I had so many takeaways from it, right? Like from the fact that you've been able to lead it, you're the first, non-Cunningham, to just the way that you've designed the workflow process. Like all of this was incredible. But what I took away was I loved, you had a quote where you're driving around with your kids and you can look and point and say, we're working on that. We're working on that. Yeah. And I think it speaks to who you are. Like you're in the Valley, right? You're in the community. Right. You're doing a lot on the business side, and you're a family man. Like I think it kind of captured who you are. I appreciate that you took that away because that's spot on. Yeah, spot on. I love everything about being able to say like we built that. And the only thing I would say is it's not necessarily, the article may have alluded to the fact that like I am doing that. It's not me. Right? Like our team, and we were doing some of those things well before I got there, and we're going to continue to do those types of things and innovate on top of that. But yeah, I think that word innovation is kind of a hallmark of who we are as a company. Didn't start with me. By no means it started with me. And we have just a tremendous group of people that continue to kind of try to push the limits, set new standards for the industry. And I'm super proud to kind of be a part of them, be beside them. That's awesome on that journey. Well, before we wrap this up, anything that we didn't hit that you want to hit? Anything going on at Westside that you think we should know about? There's so much that we could talk for hours. Right? Yeah. And I appreciate again the opportunity to be here today and share just a little bit of my story, and I appreciate what you're doing for the community as well. I don't know that there's anything in particular other than like at a high level. I think for the business leaders out there, I think they would all tell you the same thing. It's not about them. It's about team. It's about kind of having the vision and being able to go execute on those types of things. I think it is critically important that we find opportunities to volunteer. So whether that be, giving back through coaching or through chamber events or any other dozens of things that you can do. I think, we're only on this earth for a short amount of time. Yeah. And so by being able to leave it a little bit better than you found it, change the life of somebody, you never know the impact that could cascade onto other people. Well, that's the way to end it. I can't say anything better than that. So thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on. This was great. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you, Jimmy. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking Podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.